Welcome back to another Fast API video. As promised, I think we'll be finishing off with the testing part, hopefully. I think the testing part is left. Heroku deployment, so anyways, free tier to bacha nahi. Deploying Ubuntu. Hmm. Okay, maybe, yeah, testing. So, in the last video, also I have this Redis client. So, before this, and if you had to use Redis Fast API, there was no such like a proper integration. But now there's a proper integration with Redis, which is such a lifesaver. I just saw this in a few days ago. I got to see this post, so I'm very happy. I want to maybe use this and contribute to this. Obviously it's very recent, but yeah. So last video we were able to add few tests. We were able to add, we had some lifespan something which to read our right um, right, so that we had a lifespan for reading the schema file, but that's not the main thing that we're looking for. The main thing that we are looking for is our tests, right? So our test is over here, and you see we didn't have much of the test post obviously, but as you can see we had message. Actually we don't really need to worry about this, right? That is very bad. Like ठीक है कर सकते हैं हम लोग, that doesn't really matter, but we had good tests over here that we did, right, which is fun. We did test authorized user, so we made an authorized user, we made an authorized user, and we test login user, and it actually worked, um, which was great. Also I think this should be equal to 200, right? Just for my satisfaction, I will run PyTest again and see if PyTest runs. It does work, which is great. Anyhow, so now where will we start? So test user, okay, so test validates token. I think we'll start from here, right? Roughly, I think we can finish this in this video, hopefully. Inshallah, let's see.
So before we actually create any more new tests, what I want to do is I want to create a special file under our test directory called conftest.py. So this is a special file that PyTest uses, and it allows us to define fixtures in here, and any fixtures you define in this file will automatically be accessible to any of our tests within this package. So it's package specific. So anything within the test package, even sub packages, will automatically have access to any of these fixtures. The reason I want to do this is I want to take all of our database code, essentially, or well, our database fixtures, and I want to copy all of it.
I'm trying to, okay. Yes. Fixtures are potential and common use of. The fixture that you will define will be shared among all the tests in the test suite. However, defining fixtures in the root might be useless and it would slow down testing if such fixtures are not used by all tests. Makes sense? Does it have other user tests? Define fixtures for static data used by tests. This data can be accessible by all tests in the suite unless specified otherwise. This could be data as well as helpers or modules which can be passed to all tests. External plugin is used to import external plugins or modules by defining. Mm.
And I want to move it to conftest. And so by moving it to conftest, this fixture, the session fixture, as well as the client fixture, will all be accessible to test calculations, test users, any other test files within the test folder automatically. And so now I don't actually have to import anything. So I don't need to import from conf test. It'll automatically do that. It'll automatically have access to client and it'll automatically have access to session. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move this test user to conf test.
This is actually in the same file, so it doesn't really matter, right? Actually, this is I guess good. I said, wow, इतना ही तक copy किया आप. Okay, ये क्या हो गया? I'm not doing that. Um, right, इतना तक ही copy किया. Not bad. Anyhow, we'll actually copy all of this. Um, क्या नाम है? Test. I mean, I thought that ये क्यों copy क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? कर रहा तो हूँ copy. ये क्या हो रहा है? Okay. So test client आ गया यहाँ पे. Um, Why is it not adding? Is it something wrong with the code, or I'm like so confused? What is wrong with the code, right? Like, okay, let's remove this. Why am I taking so long? Anyways, okay. I think that's kind of. So I don't think we need this. We don't need this also apparently. Okay. Um. Right. So now essentially remove this fixture. Um. क्या कर रहे हो आप? Fu. Sorry. I mean no. I mean fine fu. Fu. टेस्ट क्लाइंट की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Okay. ठीक है. So now this essentially will just use the fixture from the context. Yeah, this makes our kind of code very plain. Let's see if the code runs though. It does run. Okay, that's great. So now I can worry about this from here, and this essentially remains very clean. So this only worries about the test and also fixture. So that's actually a very good change. Right. So right now, by the way, there'll be a CI/CD pipeline that will run now. CI actually. I mean technically continuous integration, continuous deployment. I am deploying this to that. So I mean yeah, but that is a great change to be honest. Yeah, great change.
As well. Right? And so that way, because I imagine that even for other modules that I create, especially like for voting and creating posts, they're going to need test users as well. So it makes sense to put this in this comp test so everyone has access to it, and I don't have to go around constantly importing things around like that. And now within
I mean to be honest, at every start of client, um, I mean at every start of client, at the end of every client, it's going to delete from user. So I don't think that situation will rise. If it does, I'll do something. But right now, it's me.
our test users, I should be able to leave everything else, and you'll see that we're not importing client or test user anywhere here. But when I run this, we should see no issues. So let's give this a try. And you can see all of our tests passed with absolutely no issues because we are importing those from the contest file. And keep in mind, let's say I created a new package. I'll call this whatever. How about API or something? It doesn't really matter what I call it. And I've got a whole
Yeah,
bunch
so
of
it will
tests
be
in
the
here,
subdirectory.
test underscore something dot py. Because this package is still within the test package, it'll have access to all of the fixtures in the conf test py. But within a package, I can also create a new conf test. So I can make a new conf test.py down here as well. And when I do it within this package, then test users doesn't have access to that one. But anything within the API package will have access to the fixtures in the API
Oh, well,
folder.
that's interesting.
Because this package is still within the test package, it'll have access to all of the fixtures in the conf test py. But within a package, I can also create a new conf test. So I can make a new conf test.py down here as well. And when I do it within this package, then test users doesn't have access to that one.
Yeah.
But anything within the API package will have access to the fixtures in the API folder as well. So conf test is package specific. So every directory you create, you can create a separate conf test file so that you can essentially scope fixtures, or you can make it so that fixtures are automatically imported into certain parts of your tests and not others. But we'll delete that because I don't actually need that. All right, so we've finished our successful login user test. The next thing we want to test is for a failed login. So I'll do the same thing. I'll call this about test incorrect login. And once again, a few things need to happen. We want the test user so that a test user gets created so we can try to log in with his credentials, or at least with the wrong credentials this time. And we do need access to client just because we're going to be making a request. And here I'll say res equals client.post, and we'll say name underscore, it'll just say wrong password. So we know that's the wrong password. And so when a user,
Ah, okay, so like that you mean. Right, so I could say something like def test failed login. I can say client, give me the client fixture, and I can say test. I think we can just say right. I could, yeah. So I could pretty much say over here test new user, and pretty much I'm going to take a bunch of these statements and paste it over here. And why is this an issue? Yeah, so no worries about that. Okay. Um, test new user email. कैसे प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है ये तो रन कर रहा है व्हाट्स द इशू इज नॉट डिफाइंड इट इज डिफाइंड बड़ी डिफाइन तो है यहाँ पे चैट इज दिस अभी तो मैं काम किया हूँ मतलब प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है like what's the issue with this code because it's in the config test file right this is inside the same level what are you complaining for okay let's remove that mm, wrong password I'm so sorry yeah okay so test new user so we'll do login and yeah so this is pretty much and I think the first way to do this is if we actually try to log in so let me just open up a server real quick um, let me just do fast API dev app main sorry it has to run through that yeah so it runs that if I try to log in with a mail I mean let's right I think okay I think that's much better so test authorized user and let me just do that let me just do this uh, yeah so I think I know what I'm doing wrong password I think the naming should be better like it shouldn't be like test fail login
enter,
test incorrect um, test password incorrect password login that's much better um, right let's if you have the wrong password what will happen to you um, if you have a wrong password you will get a status code that is 400 so if I say this should be equal to 400 right because that's the case um, let's actually just do test users it actually does run yeah so I think that's perfect
enter wrong credentials.
and if you put your wrong credentials we should see some how to extract HTTP exception Um, you know, text. Yeah, let's do text. Um, um, why is it not printing anything? Oh my god, my bad. Yeah, my bad. Test. Yeah, so we say we get invalid password for the given mail, right? So I feel like this should something be like detail. Is that something how it works? No, it doesn't. String indices must be integers. Okay, so it seems like this is not how it works, chat. And what do we get out of this? By hover over this, I'll get I essentially get a string. So wait a minute. So this it's not a, so to speak. It's this. This is a string. I mean um uh, it's the response data being sent. Okay, and I can do reason as well. Okay, so let's do print res dot reason. What is it? Reason. Okay. Let's run this. Oh wow. Respond object has no. Okay. Crazy. Um. Yeah. Okay, chat. I don't think that will be done like that. But chalo,
Okay,
theek hai,
let's
let's
do it.
watch the video.
403. So we'll say assert res.status code valid credentials. So I'll say assert
Because
response.json.
we will.
Convert it to JSON. We will get the detail property,
Oh, okay. So.
and that should equal invalid credentials. Make sure you get the capitalization correct because it's going to do an exact comparison. And just to confirm if that's what the capitalization looks like, it should be invalid credentials. So just copy it directly from here. Confirm if that's
And oh, okay. So we said dot get detail, I guess. Okay. Okay. So it's essentially pretty much a wrap, yank around quotes, and pretty much I can say assert res.json dot get detail is equal to this statement, right? So now let's try running this again. Yeah, so it works great. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. That is the only thing you will get throughout this. You'll get a status code of 403. I think this makes sense to have this before this, right? I just being nitpicky, right? So yeah, I think that's perfect. Git status, git add. I think this is a proper git we can do now. Added test for incorrect password while login and then we say git put that how can
response. Let's try this out. All right, and the incorrect login worked. Perfect. So that means we did get a receive. We did receive a 403, and we did receive the message invalid credentials. But not only do I want to test the wrong password, I also want to test wrong email as well. And I also want to test wrong email and wrong password and a few different things.
I mean,
So
if
how do
it's
we do
wrong.
that? Well, we can use parameterize, right? So let's import PyTest, which we already have, and we'll define our decorator. So pytest.mark.parameterize. So what are the properties that we want to pass? We're going to give it the attempted email, the attempted password, and then we could also get the status code. And we could also, match on a specific detailed message if you have a different detailed message for wrong password, wrong email, but we don't. So I'm not going to include that. And then now we'll just give an array with all of our, why does it do that? So here we'll define our tuples. And I'm going to copy and paste this part just because I don't want to have to make you guys sit through this. But I've got a couple of different test scenarios. So here I've got the email being wrongemail@gmail.com with the correct password. We expect a 403. I've got the right email, wrong password. I've got the wrong email, wrong password. I've also got no password, sorry, no email. So if you put none, this is essentially leaving it blank. So with this set to none, you'll see that our API actually will send a 422 because the schema validation fails because it expects a username or a password. And then we'll try sending it with a correct email, but no password at all. We should get a 422 in this case because Pydantic performance validation found that it was missing fields. So that's what I'm doing here. And then we're just going to update all of this. So the email, the email is no longer going to be test user. It's going to be, well, actually, first of all, we have to pass it into our function. So email,
I don't think I need to use parameterize, to
password,
be honest with you guys.
and status code. Code is going to be that credentials won't apply when we get the 422. So let's try this out now. Yep, and we can see all of our tests have successfully passed. So we have now finally set up a test for making sure that when a user does not provide the proper credentials, we get the right response.
Um, to be honest, uh, uh,
Response code and the right data back.
I don't think this is required at the moment.
And keep in mind, guys, right, in this case, I just set this up to be a very simple test just to check on the status code. But you could check any single field that you want. It's up to you. You can make your tests as specific as possible. You can make them a little bit more generic. It's up to you to decide on what you want to validate yourself. And like I said, I'm trying to keep this as basic as possible. Try to just make sure that we focus on how to actually create tests and less on the actual specific tests. That's all of the things that I want to do for all of the user tests. Let's move on to all of the post tests. So tests when it comes to creating, reading, updating, and deleting posts. So I'm going to store this in a separate module just to keep things nice and organized. However, you can keep everything in one file if you really wanted to, but no reason to do that. So I'll call this test_post.py. Now, when it comes to working with posts, we do have to deal with a little bit of an extra challenge. And that is, if you take a look at all of our posts, past operations, they all require authentication. So how exactly do we deal with authentication when it comes to testing? Well, you're probably thinking, we could, define a post, define a test, and we could call this, get all posts or something, right? And then here we can pass in client test user. So we have access to that, and then we would just do client dot post login. So we log in, we get a token, and then after we get the token, then we can make a request to post. And that is technically valid, but what I would like to do is I'd rather set up a fixture that automatically does this for us. Um, but instead of actually making a request to our API, I want to just import the method, the OAuth2 method for creating an access token. So we could just import this into our test so that we can actually fake our own token or create our own token without having to use the entire API and go all the way through back into this same exact method to get a token, because that seems like a waste and we're testing a whole bunch of other things that we don't want to test in this specific test. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to conf test, and I'm going to create a new fixture.
So I think what I understood from him is, in post, if you want to do this, I mean, इसमें तो कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. Actually, to be honest, I want to see what happens when I do res.json. To be honest, like um, des, yeah. So it does give something. Um, I think um, for post in res.json print post, I think because it's an iteratable. I hope it's iteratable. I don't think that iterated or something. Did this? I mean, it did. Um, can I? Yeah. So this is post, right? Can I do something like the way we did model validate over here? Where was this? Yeah, model validate. So I could do something like post model validate. I mean, to be honest, this doesn't right. I should still pass. Okay, what's the issue? Okay, first of all, let me print post. इसमें हो रहा क्या है? Also, one more thing, इसको इधर लिखा, इसको इधर लिखा हुआ है. Yeah, so this does this. So we have, okay, waterfall. What is post? Post die post ID. You um अभी के लिए छोड़ देते हैं भाई. इसको छोड़ देते हैं अभी के लिए. इसको अभी के लिए छोड़ देते हैं. या सो गेट लेटेस्ट पोस्ट. So उसमें हमें प्रॉब्लम किस में होने वाला है? प्रॉब्लम हम लोग को होने वाला है जहाँ पे we need no, not this, not even this. We'll have problem in the get. अरे साला ये तो बिना ऑथेंटिकेशन के हो रहा है. I mean, ठीक है, I mean, makes sense. Yeah, so here's the issue. We'll need authentication for creating post, deleting post, and adding your own post. यहाँ पे we need current user payload data is equal to depends over to get. Mm, auth ये किसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है? Depends payload data. Depends on API dot get current user ID. Um, तो उसमें तो दबा रहा हूँ और कहाँ? Oh, it's Okay, so token str depends on OS dot schema. Okay, bro, this is okay. Well, it's going a bit over my head to be honest.
And I'm going to call this token. So we'll say token, and this is going to be dependent on test user. So we need a user to get created first before we run this fixture. And what we're going to do is we're going to import this specific function right here, create access token from OAuth 2. And so I'll go from
Create,
app.oauth2 import create access token.
and this is in the config test file.
And just to quickly recap on how that function works, we pass in a dictionary, but I don't actually know what is in the dictionary.
So it's something like from app.oauth import create access token ID. Um, Create access token. Righty.
So let's go to where is this? Who calls this? I think it's no, it should be under users. Yeah. So create user. No, it should be under login. So under login, this is where we create the token. So we pass in data, which is just a property called user ID, and then we pass in the ID. That's all. Pretty straightforward. So we can do that. So I'll call create.
Yeah, so we pretty much import that, and then this guy creates a token. So we can add pytest dot fixture um, token, and we can say can I call that? I can technically call this, right? Also, let me just check his fixtures real quick. His fixtures are nice. Test user, test post, um, test authorized user. And what he's trying to say is, if you actually see this, create access tokens takes a payload tech, which is also which it tells. So basically, it says payload dot copy to encode payload. It says that, right, and so it's to encode update, and that's what it goes into the payload. And if you see our auth, we call this what are we? Yeah, so we are saying access token is equal to create access token payload. We're creating the user ID payload essentially over here. So pretty much that is it. And if you do check on test authorized user, we do have the rest. We do have a user ID field which we can use. So that is very good.
Create access token.
So okay, that's very great. Create क्या नाम है इसका ऊपर में? Okay, create access हो सकता है क्या ये आज? Okay, and as you see over here, we will have to give a dict. So as we give it this, so we can say something like payload is equal to user ID is equal to test authorized user ID, right?
The ID of the user, and that's why we call this function token. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another fixture. I know there's a lot of
So this will essentially just give us a JWT token, a valid JWT token, so to speak, right? So that will be very.
fixture. What I'm calling that is this. So I'll do def, and here I'm going to call this authorized underscore client. The reason I'm calling that is if we take a look at our current client, this just gives us an unauthenticated client. This new fixture will give us a authenticated client. So anytime we want to deal with any path operations that require authentication, we can just call this client the authorized client instead of the regular client. So that's going to save us a lot of time. And this is going to require the regular client and token because we need to get a token. All right, so we have access to the original client, and what we can do is we can update the headers because we need to pass the token inside the header. So we do client.headers, and then we have to pass.
That is fun. because I did create a client. I called it authorized client, which is actually logged in. And we kind of use this client for the, I think the users a lot. For the test users use this client for like login. It's gonna get so confusing real quick. But anyhow, authorized user is equal to client and token.
Pass in a dictionary. And what we want to do is we want to spread out
क्या हुआ इसमें एरर क्या दिखा रहा है ओके
all of the current headers. So we do client.headers. And then we want to add one more, which is going to be the authorization. And this is going to be an F string because we need to add the word bearer before it. And then we can pass in token.
authorization
And then we'll return this client.
bearer and we say token, right? So client dot headers basically equal to client dot headers and authorization.
So it's basically taking the original client and then just adding this specific header that we get from the token fixture. That's all.
And also this.
And so now when we go into get all posts, and I forgot to put the word test before it.
So the way this works, and I can show this, right? That's not something that's visually interesting, but let's just say I come across and be like, you know what, I want, if you want to get all the posts, if you want to get the latest post, so to speak, you need to be able to be signed in, right? And so in order to enforce that, what I can do is I can do current user is this. Essentially I can say that it has to be authenticated, and so it could goes like something like this. um, right, this will work. So like current user, क्या इशू क्या हो गया था? uh, इसमें इशू क्या था, मैं नहीं समझ में आया मुझे. Okay, that had no issue. So what this does is, now in order to use this function, if I run this, you will need to be a authenticated client, and as you can see there's no authorization over here. So I think, which one is this? Get latest port. So if I try to get the latest port without authorization, as you can see I have no authorization over here. If I run this, you will see something like not authenticated. Right. Then same thing with the test latest post, right? Now if I do this, the error code will be 401 if I am not authenticated. So you will actually, to be honest, I could just do something like client fixture and client fixture and move this, remove that. Yeah, so that will work. And if I now come over here and if I do test post, you will see a bunch of error will come saying I am not authorized, right? And so you will essentially see something like, what is it, equal to 401. That means I am not authorized, as you will see. And if I run this, you see no post to begin with. But yeah, pretty much यही हो रहा है. So that is what's happening. I'm not allowed to check this.
Instead of client, we want to import authorized.
And also I think the best way to check this, if I do res.json, if I run this, you will see detail not authenticated. But if I do authorized client, right? And if I run this now, oh wow, even much more errors. Great. Authorized client is not found because it was not a fixture to begin with. Yep, fixture tiny at um, pytest.fixture, right? Now if I run this, fail. So response 404 not found. So pretty much, right, 404. What could we have in this possible scenario is we could have pretty much nothing 404, right? So you can have 404, or we could have a 200. So it's in 404, yeah, 200. Run this again. You will see it will pass no post to begin with, right? And that is it essentially.
because we need to pass in test user if we want access to
And
some
this guy
specific data, but
actually,
we're not using any of that information at the moment.
yeah. So I kind of feel dumb doing this then, because then this does not make sense at all, right? I mean, ठीक है, I mean test authorized. ठीक है, I mean I could do something, right? ठीक है, I mean, it's not bad, so to speak, but yeah.
So I'll do authorized client dot.
And one thing also we can do is cur.execute delete from SQLite command to run to delete data from all tables present, but not the table themselves, I guess. कहाँ गया? Because that would be like better. To be honest, this is kind of scary, so I think the best way to do this is delete from posts. Right, post table करके होगा. फिर उस schema में check करिए. Users है, posts है, and also likes भी है. So right, likes है, users है, and posts है. So सब भी हट गया होगा. Um, let's actually try to run the entire suite once by test. Okay, so far so good. Right, great. So right there. Right, so this we changed this one thing about post, and even if I remove this, having the authorized guys doesn't really matter a lot, because it's like, oh wow, you have authorization field. I don't need authorization from you, right? So this will still work, but you can just leave this for a normal client, and this will work. So you don't need that, right? So this great.
Get, and it's going to be slash posts. We'll set the response equal to that. Code. So let's make sure I add the fixture there. Let's take a look at the data that we got back. JSON to see the data, I got an empty array. And the reason we got an empty array is that there's no test data in our database. There's no test posts. So we're going to have to actually create some test posts before we run this test so that we can actually verify that we got what we expected to get. So just like we did with the logged in user where we created a test user before, we're going to have to do this with our posts. We need to create a whole bunch of posts and then verify that we are able to retrieve those posts. So we'll tackle that in the next video. So let's create a fixture that will create a few initial posts so that we can actually test retrieving all posts. And we can use that same fixture for performing a few other tests. So things like updating a post, right? We would need to have a post in our database to update a post. Same thing with deleting, same thing with getting an individual post. So this fixture is definitely going to be very reusable across a lot of our tests. So let's figure out where we want to store our fixture. We could keep it in our test.posts, test_post file, because all of our posts, all of our test posts, our tests for post data, I guess, if you want to call it that, will require that fixture probably. However, there are going to be other tests in our application that will need posts initially. So when you want to vote, we need a post already in our database.
To be honest, right, it's figuring out the user ID. So only the user logged in can create post on its own. So you see, it's actually doing user ID is added. So basically, see current user dot ID and say added post. Same ही रहेगा, but we just need the post base to be honest with you, right? Um, so I don't really
Yeah, we're
understand.
actually going to put it in our conf test file so that everyone has
Well,
access to it. Well, technically anyone can access any
why do we need?
fixture if they import it, but having it in the conf test file makes it simpler because we don't have to import it. So I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to this fixture is going to be a little bit different just because we're actually going to create the posts in the database ourselves. So here I'm going to call this test underscore posts, and so what we need is a couple things. So first of all, we need a test user because if we don't have a user, we can't create posts because all posts need to be associated with the user. Since we're going to work with the database, we're going to pass in session also. All right, and let's define some post data.
To be honest, every post has to be accompanied with a valid user ID, because if you see the config test, you'll see that I have sort of pragma key on, and if you check the schema file, every this thing has an integer attached to it. Um, we can use test authorized user, create make one user create a bunch of. I don't know how we do it, but chalo, theek hai, let's watch.
So I'm going to create an array of dictionaries.
Let's see what it does. I mean,
Dictionary, and then here we're providing the title.
um,
All right.
test user. Okay, where is this test? So this is the test user. Okay, so wow, I don't know if you can do that. That was crazy. Um, chat, I might be dumb. Yeah, so I could do something like response model insert into this. Um, um, in Instead of doing all of this, right, I think this might be useless. But I think I know what to do to fix this. Um, yeah, so this is useless, and the reason why is because of this. So what I could do is I could do something like res is equal to client dot post. Um, we essentially just do users post, and we say um, um, कैसे JSON. अभी ये क्यों आप इतना गलत क्यों कर रहे हो? Why can't you access that? What? Um, we need a normal client fixture for this, which I can give client. Okay. And let me just copy this paste. This is going to be very helpful. What we could do is Um, the reason why I did not do this is because after this is ran, because after this is run, um, client will essentially just um, the the client. The reason why I didn't do this is because after this runs, and we use this endpoint, so to speak, which will actually insert into the table that we want. The issue with this is because the way we have configured this, right? Um, यहाँ पे problem हो जाएगा. But the moment this will essentially just delete it, so we can't really use this. Yeah, that's kind of sad. The reason why is this works. Yep, this wouldn't work because ये गायब ही हो जाएगा ना. If you want, I'll try, but this will not work. Um, no, this will not work. I just won't waste my time on this. Yeah, so I just won't waste my time. This is much better than the other solutions. It's working, so I'll just make sure my test suite is running as of now. Okay, it's running. Okay, ठीक है. I get what you're trying to
So
do.
what we're doing here now is we're creating 3 posts. So in this post data, I have an array, or sorry, in a list, and then a dictionary, and then here we're providing the title and the content. And
Um, I think we don't need to do that. What we could do is pretty much say test posts. Um, कहाँ ये क्या हो रहा है? Where is this use? It's gonna be so. I just realized what I have dug myself into. Um, this test is gonna be horrendously bad. Um, um, authorized client. And you also need. Um, you would also need This is so bad code. I can already see people crying. Um, Post JSON title is equal to title content. Um, 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 see if this even works. To be honest, this is so bad code. कैसे दिन देखना पड़ रहा है. Um, okay. Um, 201. क्या गलती क्या है इसमें? Um, Import PyTest, I guess. Yeah, so let's just hope, let's just pray to God together, right, that this works. Okay. Why doesn't this work though? I think we can say something like model validate res not much. Um, right, something like that. Um, right, right, and after this we can say assert created um, um, created post owner ID, I think. Right, owner ID है ना. Post, why can't I click? Like if you see the post, it has a user ID, not okay, so my bad, not that, it has a user ID, which is, if I'm correct, test authorized user ID. This might work. Rest title is equal to title post. If I check the schema, it's so if it's published, it should say is published, and let's come here and since is invalid syntax पता था. My bad. Okay. What? um Perfecto. um what can we check possibly, और कुछ नहीं है. This is very bad. You don't want this. You do not want this to happen to you. But yeah, that's what it is.
The owner ID. All right, so that's going to create a post And we're grabbing the owner ID from the test user fixture, and we're just and then content and second content, and then the owner ID is going to be the same for both. Luckily, well, all three actually. And that's not in the right format. Oh, don't do that. It should be equals,
Yeah, I see there's an
and
issue.
the same thing here.
Like three, so
And if we wanted to, we can copy this last one and then put the third one in.
if you see what
And
that
this one would
means
be called
is pretty much
third
it.
title,
Like three, so
third content. All right, let's save this. The auto formatter did not do much to help me out here. It still looks pretty ugly, but that's okay. And so that's one way of doing this. So it'll add it all, and then all we have to do is just do a session.commit. And then to get all the data back, I can just do a session.query, and we'll just say models.post. Oh, this should be user, by the way, not, this should be post, not user, because we're creating a post and not a user. We'll say models.post, and we can just grab all of them. Now, if you wanted to be able to take this dictionary and convert it easily to this format, there's a couple things you have to do. But technically, you could just leave it like this and it'll work fine. But this is a little bit more of Python than anything else. If you didn't want to hard code it in like this, because at this point we don't even need this dictionary. But if you wanted to take this dictionary and convert it into a list of
because
user models, post models, what we can do is we can use the map function. And so the map function works like this. You call map, then you call some function that you define yourself, and then you call the posts underscore data list that we have. And I don't know why I keep saying user, it's a post. We're creating posts, not users. Create post underscore model. And this is going to get passed in some object, but technically what's going to get passed in get underscore.
that's like इसके लिए क्या किया इसने हाँ test unauthorized. I mean, to be honest, we can like pretty much इसको paste कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे and you can move this maybe we can say client um, some random title इसको हटा ही देते some random content and let's just print it as dot status code and let's just press this dot json. Let's go somewhat like my bad. कहीं और प्रिंट हो रहा है इसको हटा देते हैं अभी के लिए मतलब we keep this in our mind to be honest like find a way to model validate each of the elements of the um, um, so we can say assert क्या हुआ था actually let's do one more time no post to begin with ये कहाँ से प्रिंट हो रहा है अभी तक यहाँ प्रिंट हो रहा है Yeah, not authenticated. So we could say 401. So actually, we can do something like div. Um, what's the issue? What do you mean? Um, and how do we check for that? Okay, okay, okay. Right, if I don't give any authorization, then we get something like this. Okay, and we can do rest.json.get detail is equal to not authen authenticated. Let's go chat. So not test authorized. That's just like
for all underscore posts. And instead of using authorized client, because we want to test if a unauthenticated user tries to access it, they get a 401, we'll just use the regular client, which is going to be a non-logged in user. And we want to make sure that test posts are here as well. And remember, because we're calling test posts, that's going to ensure that because test post is reliant on test user, it will in fact create a test user as well. So just to give you a heads up, we don't actually have to pass in test user into here because this should handle that automatically. And here I'll just say res equals client.get, and we'll just go to posts again. And I'm just going to assert a simple 401. So res.status code equals 401. That's really the only check I want to do. If they're unauthorized or unauthorized, there's no other things to check really. And we can see that it did successfully pass. Okay, so we've tested the get all posts. We're going to now move on to getting an individual post by an ID. But before we do that, I think it's best to actually test getting an individual post by ID when you're an unauthenticated user, because we can essentially just copy this code. And I can just paste it here. Instead of doing a user get all post, this will be user underscore get one post. And so everything else can be the same. We just have to change the specific URL. And so in this case, we're just going to grab the ID of one of the posts. So here, I'm going to change this to an F string. And I'm going to say test underscore posts. We'll grab the first one. And then remember, this is a SQL alchemy model. And so we actually have to convert it to a dictionary. So we have to do dot underscore underscore dict underscore underscore. Sorry, the test post is not a SQL. Is it a SQL? I think I could do ID. I think that should work actually. Never mind. I think we should be able to do that. That should be fine. And this should be a 401. So let's test this out. Let's make sure that this works. And that works. And what I also want to do is I want to test for a post, to retrieve a post with an ID that doesn't exist, I guess. So I'll call this def test get one post about not exist. So this one, we're going to need an authorized client. And then test underscore post as well. And I'm going to copy this, but we're going to change this, and I'm going to hard code some random number, like 88888. And then we'll just assert res.status underscore code equals 404. All right, so now we're going to try to retrieve a post that doesn't exist.
F string mi. So that we can write bunch of tests.
And it looks like it passed perfect. So now let's actually try to retrieve a valid post. This one's going to be a little bit more work, so we'll say def test get one post. And we're going to copy these two. And I'm going to copy this one right here. So we're going to retrieve the first post from test post with an ID of 0, I think. And I'm just going to rename this to authorized client. And let's just do a print. Let's see what this looks like. So we'll say res.json. All right, and that's going to run. And it printed out the post so we can see what that looks like.
I don't think so.
And just like we did before, we can also do a validation. So I can say post equals schema schemas dot what is it? I think it's post out. Yeah, post out.
I think I know what it did. It created a fixture where it pretty much did exactly what I did over here. If you look at my fixture for test authorized user, it pretty much, I think the real name should be test authorized user, test logged in user, to be honest, or like test inserted user, so to speak. It will create something like test posts that are already inside the database that you can access, and they'll use the ID created by this. I think that's what's going to happen, right? So I think what we're going to do is create a fixture which inserts bunch of posts into test db with the user id from the authorized user, and then use those for further tests in test post.py. Right, so I think that will be what the next step of the operations will be, and that's where he will use it, right? No joke, that's where he will use the actual thing. So I'll just watch.
Pass in res.json. And do we need to unpack it? I think we have to unpack it. Oh, let me print out post just to see what that looks like. Actually, I could just take a look at what we did up here. Yeah, we have to unpack it. Or spread it, whatever it's called. Yep, so now we've got our post.
To be honest, I can create it. It wouldn't take me that long. Let me just look at the schema file. This is generated automatically. This is not. I think I can do this. So it will be pretty much so bytest dot fixture, which will be def test post. Also, why the hell did I took the client? यहाँ पे तो client यहाँ पे तो client use नहीं हो रहा है. यहाँ पे author नहीं, actually the hell does it do? Test authorized user use होगा. Right, let's see इसने कैसे किया. So he created a bunch of them, and just copy this. I wanna work with some boilerplate. So yes, we have first title, second title. That's good, to be honest. Watch and learn, kiddos. Watch and learn multi-cursor action. Yeah, so watch and learn. And then I can say test authorized user, and I can say user ID. Right, boom shakalaka. And title, content, and this is user ID. So again, guys, watch and learn, watch and learn. I can say user ID. So this is just a bunch of post data, and so I can say for posts in posts data or for, okay, and we can essentially just mm, make the connection, obviously. Um, right, so then I can say uh, how to how to do how to do multiple insert statements in SQL, right? Execute many. Uh, Wait, like this? Or can I do it like that? This would be kind of shit, not gonna lie. I mean, I could do it, right? Like, we could have it. So, I mean, the readability is gonna gone, to be honest. But it wouldn't be, nah, it wouldn't be that of a heavy of a, nah, that's fine. We can say something like dot execute, say insert into, and I can say insert into post. What are we inserting into post? We are gonna insert title, content, user ID, values, and right, and I can essentially just say post guys, what's the issue? Why though? um why are you saying that? um what's the issue over here? Shouldn't be any issue, right? Post con content, what's the issue? Um Sorry, wait. Let me just create a new folder over here. um Let me call this. Actually, I don't need to create a new folder. Let me just do Python compiler. Actually, I don't know why I call it Python compiler. It's interpreter for some reason. Uh, Chat. I am so dumb. Where am I going? Let's do that. Yeah. So pretty much, let's wrap this. Let's run this. This should run. Please run. Oh yeah. Don't worry about that. Let's run this. Okay. ऐसे for post in post क्या नाम है इसका? Post data वही किया ना मैं? Yeah, so post data, print post. I want to see what post is about. The problem क्या है इसमें? Why is my fast API is like, bro, you can't do that? मैं समझ गया प्रॉब्लम क्या है. प्रॉब्लम ये है. नहीं, आप समझ रहे नहीं हो. इसको इसको भी लिस्ट लेना होगा. या अब सही है. या सो उसको भी लिस्ट लेना होगा. Right, so for post and post insert into post values, and then I can say con dot. देखो मुझे नहीं पता ये इशू आएगा ही नहीं इसमें, टू बी ऑनेस्ट आई डोंट थिंक आना चाहिए, बट अगर आया तो मैं तो एक अच्छा इंसान हूँ. एक्चुअली दिस शुड बी आउटसाइड द लूप बाय द वे, आई थिंक दिस इज आउटसाइड द लूप. या ओके, आई थिंक ये क्या हो रहा है, राइट, एंड आई विल से फाइनली con dot close also. Right, so we'll say con dot close, and this is our test, and we'll return this will actually obviously this say return post data, so we'll say post data return कर दिया हम लोग. And yeah, so this is our fixture which essentially just goes into the database, tries doing this. If it doesn't work, then okay, hopefully this doesn't cause any issues with my pre-existing test. It does not. Let's run my because I'm not using that fixture anywhere, so that shouldn't cause any issues. So it works that way. So this fixture essentially just takes bunch of these, and it's funny because if you actually come here to go SQLite 3 app test.db, and if you do schema and if you do select star from post, you won't actually see anything, right? Because after that is being run, you know how to see things. In order to see things, what you can do is very simple. You can come here, and I can say something like this. Watch. Now when I run this, right now if I run this, well, actually it won't drop the post at all. So now if I come here and run this, you will see I can actually see it. I can actually see it being run. And the reason why I'm seeing this is if you come to test.post, you see I'm actually posting it. If you see I'm posting it into it, right? So in order to make that happen, I can essentially come back to confess and um, where is that insert exit control 0. um it's still or what, it's insert, my bad, it's insert. Okay, right, so we do that and that will pretty much fix that for us. But yeah, now we have a bunch of this test that we're essentially just putting it into our that, which is great, and we can use this for our tests. Cool, so I think we'll do that. That should work, right? So we'll essentially just use this to get a particular right. The thing is key, I actually don't know. Actually, chat, if you think about it, um, post id is equal to cur dot fetch one, right? And so now I can say post dot, इसको add कर सकता हूँ मैं, and I can say post id is equal to post id, या इसको मैं simply ऐसे भी बोल सकता हूँ cur dot fetch one. Actually this wouldn't even run because, right, right, so now what this does, it does post id is equal to, this is pretty much replicant to okay, I think that was wrong. So let's just say post id is equal to cur dot fetch one. um we'll say post चलो ठीक है यार, no cookie points for that. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, done. So this should work. This actually is running after. Yeah, this is actually running after that, so that is fine. Let's run our PyTest suite one more time just to make sure everything is working well. Cool. Yeah, everything runs well, which is great. Um,
Model, well, it's our Pydantic model. And so that does some level of validation. And then at this point, what we can do is I can say assert, and I can say does post.
I mean, I'm kind of tempted to write it just to see if it works or not. So I can say something like def test get one valid post. I'll just use normal client and what I'm thinking is of using what is it? Test post. Pass. Yeah, so what I can do is something like res is equal to client dot get um, um अरे ये क्या हो गया what was that split window horror um yeah, so we could do something like test post um post id. I think something like that could work. Hopefully this, fingers crossed, this works. We're pretty much doing that, and we say the first one post id, and let's just go rest.json, and let's go rest.status code, just like simple stuff. Let's hopefully this works, fingers crossed, chat. Okay, so we get certain things out, so we can say something like assert rest.json status code is equal to 100, and um, how to assert if given JSON is validated by a Pydantic model. But I want to assert, right? Um, type like so I say something like, because this will return me a post, right? So I can say something like post dot model validate res.json. Let's run this, and it does validate that. um, Done. And I think now what will happen is it will fail. It will fail, and you see it does fail. And the reason why it's failed is was that if I run this back, actually, sorry, I was gonna print e, see what happens. Type post to begin with. To be honest, what we can do over here is test post. I mean, yeah. So now this should be equal to 100, I suppose. I hope it does. um, and let me just print rest.json. Okay, it does work. So yeah, that's done. So done. Let's go. So, and just to make sure none of this is being stored in this, let's just exit through this. select start flow because our client will pretty much delete everything, so I don't restore it at all. So cool, sweet, right? It works. Test no, test latest post when no post. Um, I think we can pretty much do something like क्या नाम है उसका मतलब क्या स्टेटस कोड है 404. This is a comprehensive test suite that no one will appreciate. um, Done. So test latest post when post present. Tests. I think this is enough for today. Um, yeah, so by default they'll have 0. I have made this number of likes by default 0. Don't worry about it. क्या था schema में उसका नाम? Actually number of likes is equal to 0. Run. Great, man. Seeing this test pass is the greatest joy in anyone's life. 16 test pass. That's I'm feeling great, chat. I think I'll end it with this. It was fun writing all the tests. Let's move that. Right. This was fun. The problem side, so that's fun. Git status, git add, um, added post test to inject sample post data in test db and node test. Great. Let's just close all of this. Yeah, that was great. That was good. Let's just come to our GitHub and check if our CI/CD was proper or not. Hopefully this runs properly. It runs on a new VM every time. Um, I do feel like they're caching some of them, like how Docker caches it, because otherwise building like large projects from scratch would be kind of scary. But you know, it will also push to Docker Hub while we are at it, right? So Docker Hub gets the newest change. Um, Seems like my test passed. Yeah, so as you can see, my test actually all of those tests passed. That's the good thing. Great, great. So our test passed, which is amazing. Good, great chat. That was good. That was good. I guess I won't watch the other half. I mean, we might watch the other half because the other half is not that interesting. So it's like, what is it? It's this stuff, and I think that's not that important. As again, test varies from place to place. So Yeah, I think that's it. I'll also apply for open libraries by migration to FastAPI. I know I've been telling this multiple times, but I will do it. I promise. I will. Next video, you have me the Google form filled out. So see you later, alligator. Bye bye.